what a week it's been for crypto this week, eh? Bitcoin dropping as low as 60,000 this week. And it's fair to say we're in a bear market. But what kind of bear market? That's the question. Are we going to do what the 4-year cycle enthusiasts say and bottom towards the end of this year? Or is this something different? And that's what we're going to take a look at today. Many analysts have different opinions, and I obviously have my own. And that's what I want to share with you. And we're going to do that by looking at charts. And we've also got a little clip from Crypto Capital Ventures show with Ben Cowen. And I want to get into what Ben Cowen's thinking about the ISM and how this cycle is going to play out. And are we coming down from a high like we did in 2021 or 2017 into 2018? Or is this more like a mid-cycle top, more like 2019? And that's another point I want to get to today. So this all sounds good to you. Come and join the show because we're going to get right into it today. Right, welcome back to Prodigal Son Crypto with myself, Chris. Okay, so it's been a tough week, okay? I hope everyone's doing okay. I hope no one got liquidated. Don't play with leverage. If you are going to play with leverage, make sure you're doing it in a smart way and not risking all of your assets or all of your holdings, okay? Do it with a small portion of your assets, okay? Because it's moments like this where you can really come unstuck and get literally wiped out of the markets like many have been. I think there was around 2.6 billion longs liquidated yesterday. God knows how many loans and everything like that, crypto loans, getting liquidated, margin called, all of that. Just stay safe, everyone, yeah, because, if you are still in those types of positions and you're unsure, then now could be a good time to get out because you don't know if this is going lower or not, right? Okay, so we broke my key support resistance. That was these levels here, okay, which was around 74,000, 69,000, okay. We even lost the 200-week EMA, okay. We came down as far as 60,000, which was a drawdown of, let's have a look right now, a drawdown of 51.5%, okay? And yes, it looks like it might be having a little bit of a bounce right now. We'll have a look at lower timeframes in a moment, but it's back up at 66,000. So, I think it recently touched 70,000. We'll have a look in a second. Okay, so what are we looking at now? Okay, so the next support level down here, if it doesn't hold up here, we've got this whole range here. Okay, this is a weekly range, so there's many lower time frame support and resistance there. Now 54k is a possibility, okay, and I'll tell you why. Because if you look back to the 2021 cycle, not only is it the bottom of these candle closes in this range here, it's a zone that was being battled with in 2021. Early 2021, it was a battle zone. Late 2021, it was a battle zone as well because it broke out and it stayed above it, and then it was the moment we lost it. They just came straight down. Okay, so that's a key support resistance zone from the 2021 cycle. It has been in this cycle as well, all throughout 2024. We spent a lot of time there. I don't know if you was in crypto, which I think most of you are, because most of you are not new retail. Most of you have been in there since 2021, some 2017 or longer. And you would know that that was a painful correction. It just went on forever, okay? And there was a lot of doubt there that the cycle was actually going to get going. It's like, can we break the old all-time high? Can we do it and get into price discovery? And it was from that point, that we took the rally up to the 100k zones, found resistance around there, broke down, and then we took the rally up to 120k. Okay, but when we got to about 120k up here and made that all-time high, we spent weeks and weeks there, okay, and then we finally felt like we was breaking out, and that was when we got the rejection. But since then, it's only been like 100 days down like this, and it's been has been a strong move down, and to get 50% down in 100 days, and when we look at the weekly RSI down here as well, okay, this is as low as it's been in previous bear markets. There it is in 2021. Obviously, it went there and we went lower. That is always a potential with an RSI. You cannot say RSI is going to call the bottom, but it gets close to it, and sometimes it does call the bottoms. It calls the lows. Okay, so look at this, March 2020. Okay, that correction down there. You know, it came down. We're lower than that. We're more oversold than the pandemic. How about that? Eh? Who was expecting that for 2026? Okay, well, maybe the 4-year cycle enthusiasts were, but I don't even think they was thinking it was going to happen that quick. I think they was all thinking, as we lead into the later parts of this year, that's when we'll start to see this type of price action, or a slow grind down, taking out levels by levels. No, it's been a sharp drop. Like I say, 2018 as well was another time we got down that low. Okay, and I think there you got 2015, that bear market as well. Okay, so this is bear market lows for the RSI, 50% down. Do I think that this is a bear market? Yes, I do. Do I think it's a cyclical bear market, as in like the 4-year halving cycle bear market? No, I don't actually, because there's lots of other charts that are telling me that this cycle is not finished. And there's indicators that tell me that I feel like this is more like, if this was the top, all this area here, forget about the exact top there, this whole area here, okay, this is a mid-cycle top, okay, and we are going to go into we could be going lower. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's not a bear market. Like I say, it is a bear market, but what type of bear market is it? Okay, how long is it going to last? Those are sort of things we want to know. Okay, because if you ask me, I'm still a strong believer in crypto. I still believe that we will get the type of bull run that everyone's been waiting for. It's just been a very long, painful ride to get there, and we might have some more pain to go through first. But this investing game, it's not easy. Okay, it's not as easy as the 4-year cycle enthusiasts think it is. Okay, because if you've been in, if you've studied other markets as well, they can't just go, oh, every 4 years it does this, and we can just sell at the end of the Q4 of the post-halving year, and we'll buy back a year later, and it's that easy, and everyone can do it, and we're all going to smash it. No, this asset class is maturing now. It's got institutions involved, big player capital, and I don't think you're going to be able to. I think that at some point it's going to be shown that you can't play that game like this anymore. And also, as we've been highlighting in all my other videos, that the 4-year cycle was always the business cycle. The ISM is an indicator that shows that, okay, amongst many other things. Okay, so why did we crash? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons I'm looking at. Okay, now one reason is that we're unable to get any movement on this Digital Clarity Act. Okay, the Digital Asset Clarity Act. Okay, the banks and the crypto firms have come head to head over stablecoin yield. Okay, and rewards, and this is going to carry on. I've heard it's been kicked down into spring now, so that's one reason. Okay, there's also fears over the DATs, the digital asset treasury companies, okay, such as your MicroStrategy. Okay, Strategy currently has 6.1 billion unrealized loss on its Bitcoin investment. Okay, and then you've got Tom Lee's Bitmine ETH investment currently at 8 billion unrealized loss. Okay, so and there's other companies that are not as well known as Bitmine and MicroStrategy, that have shown that they've underperformed. They've even sold their positions. I'm not going to go into all of those, what companies they are, but so it's having this fearful impact on the market. But you know what? When markets are down, of course investors are down. These are big investors, okay, that are some of the biggest in the game. Their losses are going to be the biggest losses, but they're losses on paper, because if you believe and you have conviction in this asset class that it's doing cyclical things, it's doing things that markets tend to do. what goes up must come down, what goes down must go up, and that's the kind of situation it is. I mean, I remember people laughing at Elon Musk, okay, when the Tesla stock crashed a couple of years ago. I think it was like around 2022, actually 23. And people were like, he's no longer the richest man in the world, and he's lost billions. They said this guy's lost billions. Only a year later, he was once again the richest man in the world because his capital is in investments, and when the markets are up, he's the richest man in the world. When the markets go down, he might not be the richest man in the world. So you got to take that notice of a lot of this stuff. Now there is some risk to these DAT companies. I believe that there is some risk, but I do believe that Tom Lee and MicroStrategy are probably holding it down all right. To be honest, they've been continuing to buy over the past week or so. So if they was in trouble, they'd probably slow down their buying, hold a bit of capital aside to pay off whatever loans or debt they have. To stop them from getting liquidated or anything like that. I'm not an analyst for that type of stuff. I couldn't tell you the ins and outs of it. I'm sure there are people on YouTube that can do that for you, but I am not concerned. That's my main point I want to say. And look, another reason I'm not concerned about this market cycle so far is because the stock market is still doing relatively well. There's been some pullbacks, but like I say, markets go up, markets go down, and you know, they're still riding up towards their highs. As I showed you in my previous video, that the stock market is about to, it looks like it could, with a few bullish weeks, start to break standard deviation. Then we could start to see maybe a real AI tech bubble growing in the stock market. And I believe whether that happens soon or later, there could be a correction in the stock market now as well. Okay. And will that take crypto down further? I can't tell you the answer to that. Okay. But what I will say is I do think the writing's on the wall for there to be an AI tech bubble at some point. And I believe it's going to happen this year. We've got the ISM going above 52.6, hit 52.6. And I was hoping to actually come on this next video and, be quite excited about that with everyone, because we've been waiting for that for a long time. But, the markets have crashed, so we're trying to unpack that. And that's what we're going to continue doing in today's show. So if you like what you're watching so far, don't forget, click like, subscribe, and follow me for more content like this. And the fear and greed index has got as low as 9 now, or 5, depending on where you look. So that's extreme fear. And as we could see, some of these lows, were some of the great times to buy in bear markets. In fact, that's how low we are. That's how much fear there is in the markets. I work a full-time job, so I DCA monthly when I get paid. So unfortunately, I had DCA'd about a week ago. So I will be DCAing again towards the end of the month. But yeah, that's what you've got to do in these times, really. So I've been looking at CoinGlass a lot lately and just watching the liquidations happening day by day, week by week. And I think in my head, I'm thinking it's around several $billion that have been liquidated. Okay, but you do have smart traders, almost like market makers, as in they're positioning their longs on the way down, and they're exiting them or going short on the way up, and that's the way you should do it. And Bitfinex longs here, if you see, okay, they tend to build their longs, a lot of longs up here when the prices are low. So if you see here from the 2021 cycle there, that's a really clear image there. When you got this summer correction, okay, they was building loads of longs ready for that last move up, okay. And then when as they got up there, they started exiting their longs, okay, on the move up, okay. All through the bear market, they was building a lot of longs, okay. And then as the market started climbing, they started exiting their longs, okay. And that's when you got the correction, okay, through 2024, okay. And then so they started exiting, okay, at the top. And then as price started going down, they were building more and more longs, okay. And then when they built enough longs, the price went up, okay? And then they started exiting, and then, okay, in the correction, they built more longs, and you see what they're doing, okay? So in this move down, they've been building a lot of longs, and this is getting quite high now, higher than the last two corrections. So, you know, is it a bear market? You know, how long are they going to accumulate longs for? I can't tell you. This could easily get up to here, okay, much higher, okay, and this price could come down a lot lower. I don't know, but other charts will tell me that I believe that we are through the worst of the pain so far, and I believe that this is not a cyclical bear market, as in we're going to bottom at the end of the year, and it's going to take us till, you know, at least 2027, 2028 to see all-time highs on the top of the market again. So just before we go a little bit further in the video, I just want to highlight that we've had quite a significant bounce here for Bitcoin. Okay, so obviously we came down as low as 60,500, and it's bounced up and tapped 71,374. Okay, currently sitting around 69,000. 69,000, obviously a previous all-time high from the last cycle, is a really key level. This is one of my key support resistance levels. Looks like it could be getting rejected there because that's quite wicky, but just something to watch over the next couple of days or weeks. You know, how can we reclaim these zones? Are we going to reclaim them? Where do we build a base? You know, if you're not into DCAing into falling knives and you want to see a bit of stability, then, you know, you can watch an accumulation zone start to build somewhere, or you might see, you know, quite a sharp recovery up to a certain level, and that could be, you know, that it gets back up to at least, like, you know, this 86,000, you know, 90,000 level, before we see more downturn. If you do get up to those levels and you're uncomfortable with your risk, you know, that would be a good time to take some off the table, get out of, you know, meme coins and low caps that, you know, you don't have that much conviction in, and get into, you know, the stuff you've got conviction in. If you want to hold on, if you believe that the cycle could continue, and you just want to keep accumulating assets, that's a good suggestion. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that before we move on. Okay, so the next part of the video should be quite interesting. Just before I recorded this, I saw a video with Dan Gambadello and Ben Cowen. So that was on Crypto Capital Ventures with Ben from Into the Cryptoverse. Okay, and now if you know Ben, okay, you know he's probably got a completely different thesis to me. But, well, some ways we see eye to eye, and some ways I don't see, because he's very much on the 4-year cycle theory. Dan Gambadello is kind of on the same tip as me. Like, he's watching the ISM, he's watching other charts, and he's seeing that this is like more like a mid-cycle hiccup rather than end of cycle. Like, we've had a blow off top. We're going to go into a year's bear market and all that. I won't keep repeating myself on that. So check out this footage. I'm going to keep jumping in and give you some of my comments on it and show some of my charts, and we'll see what that comes out like. Okay.
Can't like stop seeing this and thinking about it. It's like
Yeah, I'd
we're
like to ask
talking
you.
about this.
I want to ask you something about this chart.
Yeah.
So first of all, it did spike in January, but it also spiked January of last year too, right? Like, if you look at the spike last year, it was also in January, and then it just came back down. So first of all, like, we don't know for sure if it's actually going to expand, right? There's a lot of assumptions that it's going to expand, right?
Yeah.
The other thing too is, when it does start to expand, it can take like a couple of years before it actually reaches the highs. So I could see a world where your view is correct, that like Bitcoin tops when the ISM tops. But the problem that I have is that, like, what if that's not until, say, 2028 or 2029, right? You could still have a bear market early on. And also too, even last cycle, if you look at 2019, last cycle, the ISM was going down and Bitcoin was going up. So it's not always the best indicator by itself to use.
You're talking about like right here, right?
Yeah, like the ISM was going down while Bitcoin was going up. And so I think that it's just hard to use that single indicator as like a macro reason to be bullish?
Right, so first of all, I want to say that I've got maximum respect for Ben Cowen. I've been following him since 2021. I've been a subscriber to Into the Cryptoverse platform. Great charts on there. Absolutely love it. And he's been bang on about Bitcoin dominance. In some ways, I wish I'd listened to him on some of that. But then again, I wouldn't have been in all the altcoins that I was in. Like, I wouldn't have got into some of Solana at $20 or, some Sui at like 50 cents and stuff like that. So, and there's other positions, but there's other positions I'm not so proud of as well, of course, but let's not talk about that right now. And I'm sure you don't want to talk about those positions either, particularly certain meme coins and everything like that. But I did have some winners on meme coins, but anyway, let's not get into the coulda, shoulda, wouldas and, what we could have done differently and everything like that, because it's all about looking ahead. It's all about being positive and looking ahead, okay? Because it can be very doom and gloom. You can think you've made so many mistakes and, and think that, this is not the game for you. And you walk away and all of a sudden you look back a year later and you're like, oh my God, if I'd just held, I would have been all right, because holding wins over trying to outsmart the market, most times, okay? So, and it's just about your time horizon. If you've got the time horizon, you'll usually be right over time. So I think he's looking at the ISM slightly wrong here, because what the ISM is about it going above 50, okay? We're not trying to follow every single peak and trough perfectly. What we want to see is the ISM above 50, which means expansion territory, not contraction. Okay, now it doesn't mean that it's going to call every single move for Bitcoin or the rest of crypto perfectly well. But one thing I'll highlight here, so we got a result of 52.6. Okay, the last times we got the result of 52.6, so that's going above 50 with conviction. Okay, because we may have gone above it in 2025, okay, and we may have gone above it in 2024 just slightly. We think we tapped 50, and then we tapped just above 50 as well there. So we did see a move up in those times, okay, but then we saw the price roll over and we saw the ISM come down, price roll over, ISM come down. So it's not calling the price. Don't expect it. Don't use it for a call, okay, to call you to action to take a move. What you're using it for is a belief and an understanding of a cyclicality of the cycle, okay? Meaning that this goes in waveforms, okay? And this is the longest it's spent below 50 without breaking above with conviction. Now, this could be a break above with conviction, but we don't know. We want to see a couple more prints, as Dan said in his video, okay? But each time it did break above this level before, like 52.6. So that happened there in June 2020, okay? And then we saw the move up, okay? That happened again in November 2016. Saw the big rally then, okay? It happened back in 2013. Saw the big rally then. And it happened around 2009. But, that was early days for Bitcoin. But like I say, when it breaks above, that's when you see, and it could be some period afterwards. It might not happen for weeks or months afterwards. The price can go down, but the general direction on the zoomed out macro outlook is that the markets will do well when it's going up. Okay. Also, another thing he talks about in the video is he talks about Bitcoin's price going down. I think it might have been here, and then the ISM following it down much later. By the time the ISM's going down, Bitcoin's already bottomed. Okay, so we're not using it as a time to say, this is still up, we're going to stay in. Okay, we're going to just use it as a sign of this will go up at some point because the markets peak and trough. Okay, and then when this is going up, this is a time to be in the markets, or you want to be in the markets ready while the ISM is down. You want to be accumulating, and then as the ISM is going up, you're not going to know where it's going to peak. You're not, you can try and analyze that as much as you like, but I would say the way to use it would be as a time to take profits, because if you was heading upwards and you was taking profits all in your asset that you're invested in move up, you would have been happy. Okay. And that's a way to use it.
So you mentioned 2014, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I just think it's because maybe we just perceive things differently, which is again interesting to me. But when I look at this chart, all I see is correlation. Like this bull market 13 to 14 for Bitcoin. Like I see this expansion of higher highs, higher lows on the PMI, right? And then it's even like, even the PMI falling for a brief moment, you have capitulation in Bitcoin, and then continuation of Bitcoin and the PMI, and then you have capitulation and the fall of PMI. Like the correlation, I see so much correlation there. And obviously it's not like week to week, but like, you know what I mean?
But look at the end of 2014. You see how Bitcoin bottomed right when the ISM started going down right when Bitcoin bottomed. You see that like at the end of 2014?
Right here?
The very end of the year. No, the very end of the year. Go further.
Okay.
See there? The ISM started dropping when Bitcoin bottomed.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
So like imagine in 2015 if you were using the ISM to say why Bitcoin had to go down. Because if the ISM was dropping, therefore, oh, does that mean Bitcoin has to drop? But in reality,
You're
Bitcoin bottomed.
Right,
right. Bitcoin bottomed in January and went up for the rest of the year while the ISM went down. So like that's like, I'm not saying there's no correlation at all. Like, I mean, certainly if you pull up a macro chart, the PMI, the ISM tends to top on a macro scale when Bitcoin does. The problem is we don't know when that next top is going to be. I mean, it could be 2028, could be 2029. What if it's not until the 2030s? I mean, I hope it's not till that long.
2028, 2030s? I don't think so, Ben. And please don't take that the wrong way. Because the ISM, as we've been highlighting for months on this channel, the ISM has been down below 50 the longest ever been. We are overdue expansion in markets. I'm not saying the ISM can't go lower and it can't take longer, but really, what, another 2, maybe 4 years you're talking about there? No. This is very cyclical, this ISM, okay? It's making these moves. It was making the moves every 4 years, okay, until they extended the maturity period for US debt, okay, after the pandemic. Like Raoul Powell's been saying, Raoul Powell's now saying 5.4 year cycle now is what we should expect. And the ISM, if it starts to continue moving up, Raoul Powell will be proven to be right. Okay, what will it have that right impact on crypto? We hope so. Okay, now there's other ways we can see that this is all playing out on schedule. Okay, and that is with the precious metal side of things. Okay, so we've got copper and gold. Okay, as you can see, following a very similar time frame pattern to the ISM. Okay, we can also see that in copper and silver. Okay, yeah. So when the ISM broke above with conviction in around 2020, that was a bottom for copper, silver. Okay, and copper, silver moves very much like Bitcoin and gold on the timing side of things with the ISM. Okay, so and we've just seen Bitcoin and silver essentially just top out. I mean, look at this move down against silver. Copper, silver. This was the move down. So that was silver's rally. Okay, and now we're just starting to see. We'll assume that right in. Okay, we're starting to see a little bit of a bounce here. Now, I mean, you can ask yourself: do you think do you think gold and silver have topped? And it doesn't mean you have to say it's a major top, or whether you think it's going to have at least a correction and a cooldown. I mean, they've got very overheated, and we can see they've come down significantly from the highs already. Does it mean it's over, like, long term for gold and silver? No, it doesn't. That's impossible to say. You know, it could cool down for months and then go again. Okay, but what I'd say is that if gold and silver have topped and copper is starting to make its move against them, and it's the timing here is perfect with the uptick of the ISM, okay, we could say that some of this is happening again. And if you look, and if you like, you know, it's up to you. You can take a screenshot of this, go and have a look at all of these dates and how important they were, and where the markets were, where Bitcoin was, what happened to altcoins afterwards. It all tells a story, and that's what I'm always looking at. Is I'm looking at telling the story, okay? And like I say, just looks like that all could be taking place right now. So to think that we're not gonna see full expansion on the ISM along with crypto until 27, 28, because that plays into the 4-year cycle enthusiast theory. That's where I'm calling it wrong, and I don't believe that we are in that 4-year cyclical bear market. It has happened on time. Don't get me wrong. We've had this deep correction right on time with when the cycle should have ended for the 4-year cycle, guys. But just something's not ringing true for me here when I look at the ISM, when I look at precious metals and other things as well.
I just don't think it's going to happen this year, and that's why I think this year is going to be more of a resetting year. I think it would be very hard not to be bullish on crypto in 2027, especially if we see the ISM expand this year. Like Bitcoin dominance is actually going down, and I think one of the reasons is because the altcoin market already got annihilated in the bull market. So that we've seen that happen in many times, and even in 2019, alt started to go up against Bitcoin when the bear market started. So that's kind of what's happening now as well. Better times are ahead, but I think we're gonna have we'll be stuck in traffic on Struggle Street for a little while.
Struggle Street?
Struggle Street, yeah.
Oh, did you just mention Bitcoin dominance, Ben? Well, that's good, because wanted to talk about that. Okay, I think this is good because unfortunately I'm not a huge user, and chance of getting Ben Cowen is next to even getting him to engage with any of my comments on X. So so let's look at Bitcoin dominance, okay? Because I've always said Bitcoin dominance will not end cycle at the high. So as we were saying about a 2019 style top, okay? Now in 2019, Bitcoin dominance started breaking down, okay? But then obviously it took, when Bitcoin started pumping towards the end of 2020, okay, it took another move up. And then obviously it collapsed into the bull market, that went on right into 2021, and it stayed down low, right till 2022. Okay. And then it was when, Bitcoin really bottomed in the bottom of the bear market, it started to take the rally up. Okay. Now we are just sitting around here with all of this price volatility that's gone on. Have you been watching Bitcoin? I have. And it's literally been staying around 59%. It's just 58, 59, 60, and it's hardly moving. Okay. And I just think Bitcoin's gone down a lot. The altcoins have already been obliterated. Okay. Like Ben said. And I believe if we start to see a bounce here, okay, we could start to see altcoins pick up pace against Bitcoin. Yeah. And then maybe Bitcoin takes a bit of rally and there's some choppiness. Yeah. But because this lines up with the ISM. Okay. Look, bottoms of Bitcoin dominance match the tops of the ISM. So that's another confluence that I've got, that this cycle still got something left in it.
This whole QT, the first QT ever back here, like in that bear cycle, right? And then quantitative tightening ended in July of 2019. I talk about this a lot. I'm just curious of what you think here. Post QT, we dipped. And this is kind of where I think we are now. Like we had record breaking QT that just ended December. I've been saying, be ready for a post QT dip. It happened in 2019. So
Right.
I think like we're more here, right? That's like what that's where I've been. And I've been saying we're in that type of dip now. What would you say in relation to that? Because it's not so much like right here, like a bear market move, I guess, but it's more like just that weird area in 2019, right before COVID. Do you see, do you see any similarities there?
I mean, that's basically been my thesis for like 3 years, is that's what we're following. I mean,
so Ben says that. He says that it's been his thesis that it's a 2019 type of move. And he has, to be fair to him, shown some of those indicators. But yet, I think sometimes that analysis is kind of skewed because he's still talking about everything that's happened every 4 years, almost like the cycle top, and then that we're going to bottom at the end of this year, okay, which conflicts with being a mid-cycle top, if you know what I mean. Because look, if I show you, like, this is the Bitcoin 365-day running ROI, okay. Now, what you can see is, you see these sharp peaks are tops of the markets, okay, and then you've got these peaks that are like midway, okay, midway, and this looks like midway to me. I can show you another one. These are, by the way, these are off of Into the Cryptoverse, Ben's platform, okay, and you've got this historical on-chain metrics risk, okay, so historical risk score, okay, and this shows the same. There's so many charts on Ben's platform that show very similar, that it's more like a mid-cycle than a peak. It didn't reach those, and you can see that the sentiment wasn't there either. It never got euphoric. You never had the huge retail interest. So there's many things. I mean, look at the weekly RSI as well. Look, I can go back to Bitcoin and show you that. Okay, let's put that back on the weekly. Okay, and if you look at the RSI levels, okay, now this was a peak, okay, of 2021, and this is how it got up in 2017. Okay, now this was a mid-cycle peak here. Okay, and now if you look, it just looks more mid-cycle, and the fact that the highest RSI reading of this cycle so far was not the top, okay, it was this top here, which was when we got overbought. Other than that, we wasn't overbought all the way up here. It just stinks of mid-cycle to me.
So this is comparing the current downturn to the 2019 downturn, right? So yeah, I mean, look, Bitcoin topped on apathy, not euphoria. If you look at Bitcoin color coded by social interest, it looks like 2019. So I've said for a long time, this is like the 2019 style drop where Bitcoin topped on apathy rather than euphoria, and there was no rotation into altcoins back then. So it's interesting because it ends up being the same as the other midterm year bear markets. It just happens to align at the right time that the downturn, QT literally ended the last month of 2025. And that's when the downturn happened last time, is after, really kind of right before and then through the end of QT. The one thing I would say, though, and this is kind of the reason why I think we think about it a little bit differently. I think you're sort of looking at the downturn here in 2019 and saying, all right, well,
sorry. Hold on.
Oh yeah, you're fine. You're basically saying, like, okay, this downturn lasted, if you exclude the pandemic, which I think is reasonable, it lasted about 25 weeks, right? Um, if you look at today, we're only 18 weeks in. So you could argue we have a couple more months, even by that logic, right? And that's excluding the pandemic. If you include the I'm not saying we should include the pandemic, but what I'm saying is that, like, there is a non-negligible chance that recession fears do increase later. I mean, job openings are low, hires are low, quits are low. The only thing that's not high or not looking bad, layoffs are still relatively low, so that's a good thing. But even then, it took 37 weeks. If it takes 37 weeks, that basically puts us out into the summer of 2026.
Summer of 2026, eh? Okay, that's funny because I came up with this. Okay, so we're always measuring, bear market low to bear market low, which is the way, people tend to measure cycle lengths. Okay, so this cycle here from 2012, 2011, okay, till 2015. Okay, that was 1,367 days at 3.74 years. The next cycle, which was from 2015 till 2018, that was 1,220 days, 3.34 years. The next one, which was 2018 until 2022, Okay, 1,430 days, that's 3.93 years. See where we're going here. So 3.74, 3.34, 3.93. Currently, we are 3.21 years, okay? 1,173 days, okay? Now, so the cycle's not the longest from low to low, okay? Because, they're saying it isn't completed yet. If we was going down the 4-year cycle route, okay. Now the average is 1,340 days. That would take us till July of this year, okay. So that could be where we find a bottom, okay. If we're going by a 4-year cycle theory. Now, if we was going by the halving cycle, okay. So we've got halving. So we can go back to the Genesis block here. Okay, Genesis block to top, 919 days. Genesis block to low, 1,052 days. I'm not going to read all these out to you, but the average is to top is five. This is from halving to top. Okay, 590 days. Okay, so far halving to top 536 days. So we can see how it is looking like the 4-year cycle is playing out in so many different ways. But like I say, the things that give me confidence that it's not that is the ISM, the metals, and just what's going on in the crypto industry, what's going on in the stock market. I believe there's going to be a bubble. It's going to be very big. We've not seen mass retail interest come in yet, and I believe that's part of the cycle that all plays out. We're seeing indicators looking like mid-cycle top rather than top. I mean, literally none, zero, absolutely zero of the top indicators that called some of the last tops of the cycles called it. So, so let's not go along with, all these analysts on X that are saying, it just does this because it does it every 4 years. I'm not buying into that. It's not a mythical, mystical pattern that repeats. Okay, it was based on the business cycle. We've proven it was based on the business cycle. It's based on the election cycle. These cycles have been going on way before Bitcoin. Satoshi, I believe, whoever he was, whoever they were, they understood economics, they understood real cycles, and they matched things up with the halving to go along with the pattern. I mean, it was born in 2009 after the 2008 financial crisis. They're ready for a brand new 18-year cycle, which is what we're still in now, and the peak for the 18-year cycle for the stock market. I don't think it's done yet. I think we're going to get the AI bubble. And anyway, this halving cycle would say that the bottom, low to low, based on an average of 966 days, would take us out to the end of the year. Okay. 4-year cycle enthusiasts think that Bitcoin always takes 1 year from top to bottom. If it tops in November, it's going to bottom in November. If it tops in October, it's going to bottom in October. Okay, so everyone's saying see you in October. Okay, yeah, good luck on that one, because I don't think it's going to be right. And like I say, I said it on X the other day. I'm happy to say, if I get this wrong, completely wrong, I'll come out and say I was completely wrong. I'm not telling anyone to make moves please don't make any moves based on what I'm saying. Just use it to educate yourself and give yourself a different way of thinking. I like to think outside the box, okay? The market likes to make the most fools out of most people most of the time. I'm not most people. I'm not going along with the sheep here, which is what a lot of people are doing on X and online. They're all seeing this one thing and they're all going with it. And I'm just a bit more outside the box. I'm thinking outside the box here. And I believe that's what you've got to do. You've got to do your own analysis, do your own research, understand this thing. None of this is financial advice.
And then the other thing that this is like the most bearish case, and I don't even think I've shared this view on my own channel. But one way to look at it too is to say, all right, well, the bull market lasted for 28 weeks. And then if you exclude the pandemic, it basically lasted around the same amount of time, right? About 28 weeks. So I'm like, okay, well, this thing lasted for years, right? So the bear case is what happens if the downturn lasts longer than anyone's expecting. That's not my base case, right? Like my base case is that we bottom this year. So I'm sort of looking at it and saying, all right, like if the move up can take longer than this one, then the move down can take longer than that. And so I'm kind of trying to come to a compromise between what is realistic. I don't want to get too greedy and wait too long, but I think it makes sense to assume that crypto will likely have this downturn. It'll probably get some rallies at some point, but that eventually it's going to find a low, and then it'll start trending back up. I just think we're a ways off from the more durable low.
And each bear market, okay, now obviously the less mature the asset was that Bitcoin was, the bigger the drawdowns. Okay, so we had 93% in the first cycle, 87.6% in the second cycle, 84.2%, 77%. I don't think that this cycle will. I don't think it's going to be much different, to be honest. I think when Bitcoin does have its major drawdown, I believe it will be in the tunes of like 65, 70%. Now, I think that 52% down, we've had quite a sharp move down. If we are, this is a mid-cycle correction. Because don't forget, look at some of these periods, okay? That was over a year. That was just under a year. That was nearly 2 years. That was about half a year, okay? And I don't really, that was such an immature asset back then, okay? Now, we've already come down 52%. We've already broken down below previous all-time highs, but we're still holding above this, okay, this zone here, okay, and I think that's the key zone to watch, okay, but it's 125 days down 52%. It's possible we go lower, and it's possible it takes more time, of course, but I'm still just believing that this could be the mid-cycle top, and we've got a bullish year ahead of us at some point. Might take weeks, might take months, but that's where I'm going with this. But that's where I'm at with things, really, because like I say, I believe that certain stages and emotions all take place in a cycle. Okay, I've studied cycles going back decades, okay, and you can usually see familiarities in the way those cycles play out. And I just think that this cycle so far, and you have to agree, is completely lackluster. But we've had such great fundamentals, and in the institutional setup for crypto is there. The rails are there, the on ramps are there, the use cases are there. It's an AI tech bubble, okay, which is still going, as we saw. Stock markets, they might be pulling back a little bit this week, and they might pull back more than that, but there's no confirmation of a top in the stock market either. With an ISM tick up, with the dollar continuing to weaken, and with the debt refinance that has to take place, we've got a new Fed chair going to be cutting interest rates. There's lots of debate on that at the moment. Is he a hawk? Is he not? I don't think he's going to be a hawk. I think we're going to get there. So I hope you've enjoyed today's show, and I did. I enjoyed debating with Ben Cowen, because that's the closest I can get to debating with him at the moment. There's many things I agree with him on, but there's so many things I disagree with him on, because I don't like to keep my head stuck in this, like, Bitcoin does this, it always does this, and because that's not the way markets work. You go and analyze the stock market, it just does different things all the time. But there is a rough timing of cycles that I believe in, okay, and it is business cycle, it is the election cycle, okay, because the economy makes movements around presidential elections and during their terms, okay, because you've got their midterms, you've got the election, and there's all times for interest rates to be cut, and quantitative easing, and or different easing and stimulus measures, and they do this to make their presidency look like a successful term, and obviously the economy has to have peaks and troughs, okay, it has to have times where it has great moments, and it has to have recessions, and that will always repeat. but I can't see a recession anytime yet. It's not in the in the distant future. It's there, but not yet. And we can see what we can see in the charts, and that's what I believe. And yeah, just to have fun looking into the markets, trying to understand the markets the more you can. Don't let the downturns chew you up, okay? Because there will always be downturns. So you have to expect them. You have to be ready for them. Okay, and by being ready for them means that, whether that's because you have a job and you're able to invest more money, okay, or you've got dry powder sitting on the side, buy those dips, or maybe you're a smart person and you like to take profits when it's up, and and put money in when it's down, and that's what I'm like too. But I'm sort of waiting for the cyclical move, which I don't think's come yet, and that's the point of everything. That massive cyclical move. And I'm a strong believer in altcoins. We had no move for altcoins yet, so I believe that part of the cycle's coming, and it just might be a waiting game. So stick around with me, keep watching, like and subscribe, and we're going to do more content like this, and we're just going to follow this cycle until it gets to where we want to be. So stay strong, and I'll see you soon.